I am briefly going to walk you through how to do assignment number 1 for this week, which is Genetics with Model Organisms 1, Pre-Punnet Square Skills. And I suppose it would help if you could see that with me. Obviously, I'm not going to give you all the answers here. That would be ridiculous because you need to know how to do some of these things on your own if you want to be successful on your next exam, which is next week. But this first section here is just showing you words, basically definitions of words. And you have a little word bank here. So you have an organism with a single chromosome of each type. Thanks to your work with mitosis and meiosis, you know that that is a haploid organism. So you're already done with haploid. We put E there. Organisms with pairs of chromosomes of each type. We got pairs of chromosomes of each type. We know that this is going to be a C. I do want to make sure that you'll know all of this. So we're going to get rid of C. A long linear folded piece of DNA that holds a lot of genetic information. Long linear folded piece of DNA that holds a lot of genetic information. So is that an allele, chromosome, gene, or protein? There's a lot of information. We're going to say that's a chromosome. Good. A loci or location on a chromosome that contains an allele. So we know it's not an allele because we're containing an allele. The loci is a place on a chromosome. Genes are found in specific places on chromosomes. So that's D. Specific instructions for building a protein, a version of genetic information found in a gene. We're still working with genetic information. The last genetic information word we have is A, allele, and made of amino acids. You could probably stop right there and perform almost all the tests in the cell. That is an F for protein. I took off the light there, so maybe that you can see that better. Let's autofocus this again. All right. Read through diploid organisms. There were 2 alleles. So there's our dominant, homozygous dominant, heterozygous, homozygous recessive, homozygous dominant, heterozygous. Okay, and then we know that the alleles are instructions for something we call phenotype. So the alleles are genotype. Phenotypes are what you get from your genotype. Brown hair is a phenotype. Dwarfism, being small, being under 4'9", like that. Blue eyes or brown eyes or green eyes or hazel eyes or gray eyes, whatever. Those are all phenotypes. If you have wings, which we don't. Whether you have wings or not, and whether you have eyes or not. So those have to deal with fruit flies, by the way. That would be a little weird. So read each phrase and decide whether it describes an organism's genotype or phenotype. So green eyes, is that a genotype or a phenotype? Well, it already says it. It's a phenotype. Blonde hair is a phenotype. You can just put P. JJ, that is a genotype, and go on from there, please. Referred to as homozygous or heterozygous. And so here you have flies. This female fly has 2 alleles that causes curly wings, and the male fly has 2 alleles that cause straight wings. Here is their offspring here. You can see that they're all straight wings. So we can call the straight wing a dominant allele, because all the F1 generation became straight wing, and we're only looking for 1 trait. And so we're looking at a monohybrid cross here. Our F1 generation is, they're all heterozygous, straight wing, curly wing, but they are all dominant, straight wing. So looking at dominant and recessive, you look at things. So here we're looking at genotypes. This is little a, little a. We're calling that a homozygous recessive. Here is a big A, little a. Is that homozygous dominant, heterozygous, or homozygous recessive? This is, you can write het, you can write hetero, you can write out I don't know if I could write it out, heterozygous, however you want to do it, but it's heterozygous. This, you can write HD, you can write hom-dom, or you can write out homozygous dominant. And if it was homozygous recessive like it is here, you could just write HR or hom-rec, okay? And those are all going to work for your answers. Moving on to the next page, if I can pull the papers apart. Now we're actually getting into like, hey, genotype, phenotype questions. Hey, if something was this, is their offspring going to be this or this? Okay. So we're looking at mouse fur color in this first one. Black is dominant. Big B is dominant. Little b, which stands for white, is recessive. All the mice have big B. So they're going to be black. Okay. All the mice have big B, little b. They're heterozygous, but big B is dominant. So they're all going to be black. Okay, and then walk yourself through the rest of them like that. For more phenotype, genotype colors, now they're letting us know, hey, big B is dominant, little b is recessive, the mouse is black. This is a little bit more interesting of a question because we know that big B is dominant, but from up here, we know that big B can be inherited in 2 different forms and still show a black mouse. So you have to account for all possibilities and say it can either be homozygous dominant as big B, or heterozygous as big B, little b. So this one's a bit easier. The big B is dominant, the little b is recessive, the mouse is white, white is recessive. It can only be little b, little b. A nematode is a type of worm. Pinworms, which are a type of infectious worm for human beings, is a nematode. So not all nematodes are infectious, but whatever. So they can either have a coordinated movement, which is normal and dominant, which is a big U, or they can have uncoordinated movement, which is recessive. This worm moves normally. So once again, it could be big U, or big U, little u. You have to come in with all possibilities there. Okay, moving on. These are just more of the same thing type of questions. They're just asking for different ways to answer these questions. So this looks like the last page. For some reason, I thought there was 2 more pages here. The brown frog is homozygous. So either homozygous dominant or homozygous recessive, but he's homozygous. And his green brother frog is also homozygous for their skin color alleles. Their green mother was heterozygous. Mom is heterozygous. She's green. Mom is heterozygous, but she's green. So I'm going to use green for the dominant color. So big G, little g was mom. Okay. Big G causes green skin. So the dominant allele causes green skin. Okay, the recessive allele causes brown skin. We know this because mom was heterozygous, but she was presented as green. And so brown frog here has to be the absence of green. So he's recessive. A pink-eyed mouse is homozygous. We don't know if it's dominant or recessive. And a brown-eyed sister mouse is heterozygous for their eye color. So brown-eyed is heterozygous. Brown-eyed lets us know that brown, big B, will present over little b, pink. So the dominant causes brown eye color, and the recessive causes pink eye color. Okay, so that's what I'm asking you to do on this page. So continue with the last 4 on that page as well. And then obviously you should have the same answers that I have for what I've answered if you watch this video. And then I will grade you based on the rest of your answers. So thank you so much. Let me stop share here. Let me stop recording. Have a good night or day or night or whenever you're watching this. Have a good one.